Hi again, everyone. It's Jason Smith with Bow Developments and Scarborough 17 for another edition of our B2B, our business-to-business section. Hey, we've been getting some great feedback, and it seems like some people are really enjoying these. So we're super happy to be, moving through this pandemic and still trying to provide some value for people. So here we are today. We're at Modern Steak down on Stephen Avenue. I'm here with Stephen, the owner. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So tell us a little bit about where Modern Steak's at right now, and then we'll kind of get into where it's going.
Oh wow! 2 weeks ago it was awesome. Things have changed dramatically. We've been doing very well, I'd say, against our peer group. We've stood up and done really well. Obviously, we started in Kensington 5 years ago. We opened up this location basically a little over a year ago, and it's been going fantastic. We expanded to a new brand, Modern Ocean, and things have been going great. And there was obviously a need for seafood in this restaurant to go along with our steak program. So now we're kind of the ultimate location, whether you want surf or turf. You can have either on one floor or the other.
Right. So, and what gave you the chutzpah to come to in the market? Because I mean, really over the last 2 to 3 years, it hasn't been that strong for restaurants. And how did you decide to really go from Kensington, which was sort of a it was running well, it was established, and to come down here on Stephen Avenue and open something up?
I always like to say the short answer to that is I'm really dumb, and entrepreneurs have to have a very short memory, and they always need to be pushing. And I think in the name of the game right now is kind of expand or die to some extent. And when your brand is doing well enough to expand in this type of market, and not very often do you have a flagship location like this to be able to move your concept into. So it was kind of a little bit of the maturity of Kensington was at the right age. We were looking to expand, and this location came open, and we thought this is kind of arguably the best location in Calgary, center and Stephen, in between all the hotels, close enough to the Stampede grounds and the Saddledome. It just ticked all the boxes for us, and pre-pandemic it was working exactly like it should.
Yeah, and I can relate. It's not an easy step, I mean, I went from building homes to building a 52-unit condo building in Scarborough. So I was listening to a podcast recently that actually said that the word entrepreneur, way back when it was created, was more for like crazy people.
Yes.
It wasn't for like someone doing business, because most businesses copy. And it's fine. A lot of them do very, very well. They copy, they adapt, they make better. But entrepreneur really was about going out and doing something that nobody had ever done. Right.
And I could not agree more, because Modern Steak was really born out of me living I was living in the Southern United States. I was living in Orlando, and then I ended up living in Jamaica. I was the VP of operations for the largest restaurant group in the Caribbean, and I was traveling around to all these different cities and going to all these really cool steakhouses that were really up-tempo, a little bit younger in style, and doing some really unique things. And I kind of looked at Calgary, the city I'm born and raised in, and said, there's a lot of kind of traditional old school steakhouses, and there was nothing that was kind of the new breed. And so I owned a Scoba, I owned Muse, and then I switched that into Modern Steak. But this was the first time that I've ever actually concepted my own restaurant, from the name to the design to the logo, from everything in between. And it was a really challenging process, because when we initially opened up Modern Steak, the truth was people hated us. They despised Modern Steak because we were advertising to the traditional steak market. They came in and they expected Caesars or vintage, and people came up to me and basically in my face like, this isn't a steakhouse. Your servers aren't dressed properly. You're playing hip-hop music. The menu, where's my crab cakes? We did none of that, because we were trying. And within 6 months, we got rid of that kind of demographic and audience.
The fear of change crowd?
Right, that didn't want us. And our crowd came in, and we went from being like kind of flatlining to hockey stick acceleration, and that happened basically. We beat our year-over-year sales for 5 years. That was the first step of it. If you ask what's our secret sauce is that we have a story. And most restaurants that you've seen kind of close or fail over the last couple of years, we're not into that generic kind of, let's go for Italian, and it's kind of what's the story behind it. There's nothing special to the product. We kind of really went kind of old school old school in our mentality, but very modern in our approach, which was no one was actually serving Alberta beef in Calgary.
Right.
And this is something I say, and everyone kind of always says.
This is shocking to most people, I think. As it was to me.
Am I allowed to swear on this?
No.
Okay,
but it really was, though.
Yeah, so I had this conversation with you, and it was like, when I say that to a lot of people, they say, well, just like you kind of told me, and it's like, we wanted to do something that no one else was done. We want to serve the best product from our backyard. We want to have a connection with the land and the people that are producing. And that came around with going through and going to different ranches and meeting them, seeing their operations, and making sure they're on the same page and met a certain spec. Mm-hmm. And eventually that led to our program we have with Benchmark, Brant Lake Wagyu, Flag Hill, which does our grass fed. So we're working with these small family-owned operations that, their names on the menu, they have pride in the product, and each one of these is something different. And to the point when we eventually went into partnership with Benchmark Angus, and we bought a bowl with them to have our own exclusive line of steaks that no one else can get. So it's nice to have our own source of prime grade Alberta beef that people don't get. But it was just paying attention to what people were doing. People were looking to, that 100 mile diet idea. They wanted to support local. They want to know where their product is sourced. Yeah. And we're in an age of dining that people need to feel good about who they're supporting and what they're eating and and where it's coming from. Yeah. And this is what's been lost in most concepts, because they're just getting they're getting their product just off the back of the truck, and there's no connection to anything. And it's really hard to get your server or have your guests become your advocates and fans, because there's no story. With us, everything on the menu has a story, and there's a reason why it's there.
Right. And so a couple things I just like to unpack there. I don't want to step over, kudos to you for pushing through in that initial phase where you're getting pushback, because I think a lot of people that start new businesses or even start established businesses but are trying in a different way get that. So and it's pretty easy to take that feedback personally or to quit or whatever. So kudos to you for pushing through and believing in yourself on that. And I think that's a really good point for a lot of people out there that are trying to do something new and innovative. And secondly, I just touch a little bit more on the type of meat, for instance, that I just had a burger. You were gracious enough to make me one of the most amazing burgers that I've had. In fact, I bit through my lip trying to get into it. But touch a little bit more about, because when you told me originally that a lot of Calgary restaurants especially aren't using Alberta beef, I was aghast at that, because I've gone to several of them since I was a kid. Yeah. So just reiterate a little bit more about that.
To the first point, staying the course is important when you're in your infancy. It's very easy to go, oh my God, they hate me, I'm going to switch to this. And you know what, I'm not busy enough, I'm going to change my product. Until you've really have a time period to know what's really going on and making sure, especially when you're doing something new, you're going to have those people that come in and support, and you're going to have those people that come in and hate, and you can't be on the emotional roller coaster because one guy says you suck, because there's always someone in the audience that says you suck. Media. Exactly. So you have to have a little bit of a thick skin, and you have to stay. And the truth is, Brant Lake and Benchmark Angus have been on the menu since day one. We've never cut corners on that product, because that was so important to that to be our kind of flagship brands of the quality of beef that we're having. Sure. Now the second point is, what are people doing out there? So when I was young-ish, when I was 26, I bought my first restaurant, and I thought I knew a lot, but when you hindsight, you don't know much. And what happened is, we were kind of led to believe that brands like Sterling Silver and Certified Angus Beef were Alberta beef, and they were sold to us that way. And even I thought that when I was a little kid in this business. And then over time you realize, okay, those are actually spec programs. They have nothing to do with Alberta beef. They're not about origin, right? So the Certified Angus Beef program, it gives you Angus cattle, and then the Sterling Silver program guarantees you AAA. That's the only thing those are spec programs. For us, we want it to be just like in Italy when you see DOP, right? It's about the origin of the product. Right. So all of ours is 100% Alberta beef, ranch specific, traceable to that ranch and what they do. Each ranch does something a little bit different. This is what's unique. Most restaurants will have just one kind of steak on the menu, and that's what they have. For us, we wanted to showcase all the different styles and productions of artisan beef in Alberta. So with Modern Benchmark, which is who we own our bull with, we do what we call traditional Alberta beef there, which is on the range, grass-fed, and then we finish them on barley. That's the traditional Alberta way, where you get that beautiful kind of savory components that are what make Alberta beef so famous. Brant Lake is our Wagyu farm, and that's a totally different ball game. Like, that's a very challenging product to make in Alberta because they're on barley for around 2 years, and barley is very expensive, and you're on one type of feed for 2 years. But in the end, the product gives you prime grade plus quality of beef, which gives you the richest marbling that you can get in Alberta. And then when you go to Flag Hill and our grass fed producers, 100% grass fed and finished. So there's it was the whole idea, just like this wine, we wanted to express the terroir of Alberta beef. Okay. So where it's from, what it's finished on, and how it's raised, and all those things are different factors in each one of our things of how they taste.
Right. And I think it's so important. I really do think, and thank you so much for getting sort of on a granular level with that, because I think people don't know that stuff, and people want more and more, like you said, local, but also want to know what they're putting in their bodies these days. And sometimes you think and you don't. So I really appreciate that. So let's just shift a little bit onto some of the things that you're doing that are possibly innovative, things you're moving forward with. We're dealing with coronavirus right now. So what are some of the stuff that you're doing as a company to continue to keep buoyant during this challenging time?
So the Modern Burger, MBurger concept has been in my mind for 2 years, and it's just, the market's crashing, we're not going to open another concept. And so just by circumstance, we launched MBurger, which is our ghost kitchen concept. So you're seeing more restaurants trying to add another lane of revenue into their business. So we created MBurger, which is our ghost kitchen concept. And so it's MBurger powered by Modern Steak. We use all the same philosophies in our Modern Steak concept, in our online burger concept. So it was just another way to kind of expand the brand and be able to get another revenue stream with a quality product at an amazing price. So we kind of had to pivot with our other brands, because obviously in the shutdown, every restaurant on Stephen Ave is currently closed.
Right.
So we put Modern Steak and Modern Ocean are both on Skip the Dishes and DoorDash. We're also doing curbside pickup. We've put our wine list on 50% off if you come and pick up your food. So if you want to pick up a bottle of wine. So we're adjusting to the market, and we're adjusting to people's flavors and tastes and ease of access, because our feeling was, after I think day 4 at home with the kids and family, and having spaghetti for the 3rd day, I think there's going to be a point when someone's going to want a break, and someone's going to have a meal that's cooked for them, and they want to know its quality, and they're supporting someone local. Yeah. So that's kind of how we pivoted and how we're going to make it through this time. We've done the obvious things. Unfortunately, we've had to lay off people, and we're running a skeleton crew, and we're shutting the lights off, and if we can take a cooler and clean it out and unplug it while we're not open. We've done all the normal steps that I think most business people are doing, but for us right now, we're really working through our social media channels, because between all of our channels and all of our brands, we probably have about 40,000 followers between all those brands. Right. So we're getting that stuff out there so they can do all the online delivery.
Cool. So I think we'll wrap it up there, and I appreciate all of that insight. I think I hope some people got some value from this. The local thing, whether you're a restaurant or any type of business that's selling whatever, I think is extremely important these days. And I think, and you and I talked offline, this shift towards more online, more sort of, people working from home, those types of softwares and technologies that are coming, I think it definitely, this coronavirus is pushing people into ways of thinking that possibly weren't necessarily the norm. And so, I think if you're running a business, you want to start thinking about moving forward with what are ways that you can service your clients. One thing I really heard through you is you really got clear on your product. First of all, you're very clear on your product and what it is you're offering, and then figure out how do I get that out to the people where they don't necessarily have to come into the bricks and mortar anymore, and marketing it that way. So, and building your brand that way. So again, thank you very much, Stephen, and we appreciate everyone tuning in. Hope, again, like I said, you got some value from this, and we'll see you in the next episode of B2B. Cheers.